Hi there, my name is Richard Handy. I feel like I'm in the $25,000 pyramid. Asparagus! Um, I've always been passionate about what's underneath. I run an acting conservatory called NYS3, and I'm a bioenergetics practitioner. I study frequency of energy, and I look at its patterns in life and health, and I'm working to discover the patterns of energy and how it works. Soon after I was born, I contracted a MRSA staph infection. I died. I made it. And they say that people who return from the other side, they're more apt to experience a paranormal. And I've done that several times with ghosts in particular, but beyond that, I've never really been into the woo-woo thing, at least not until this year. And on January 10th, I received a phone call from my business partner, and she thought Willy, her black lab, was dying. I work in bioenergetics, and it's an alternative medicine practice that reduces everything down to frequencies. It's a combination of Eastern and Western medicine, and it puts everything on the same playing table, whether it's an emotion or chemical or DNA, in order to find the root source of the imbalance or disease. And Willy was my buddy. I had just finished dog sitting him for about 2.5 months, and we got close. He would teach with me. Well, he wouldn't teach, I would teach. And then we slept together, and so we were tight. And Willy hadn't eaten for 6 days. So I scanned him, and we found a parasite that was in his brain that was affecting his liver. And it was shutting it down. And he also found an emotional block with love, anger, and adoration. He was not able to receive those energetically, which takes a toll on the body that's quite significant. So I took everything he needed back to the place and began working on him. And he just sat there, and he just looked at me and just let me do what I needed to do. And I'll never forget his eyes. He just sat there and was so sweet and was so calm and this hopelessness. And looking at me while I just did whatever I needed to do. And that was that moment that I suddenly dawned on me, I didn't know why I was healing him. Like, for what? So he could continue this stupid hamster wheel, just to eat shit every day and go out and in. And as human beings, that's all we do. It's always a response to an emotional experience. So where's it going? What's the point of anything? And except for his liver, he was in exceptional shape. He just wouldn't eat and barely drinking water. And the next day when I came back to the house and I tried to give him his stuff, he would run away every single time. And I sank into a really deep depression, not understanding why I was doing what I was doing or why anything mattered. Until January 14th, when I was house sitting across town and I couldn't sleep. And I was restless and in this self-induced downward spiral that I was going in. And suddenly I heard a voice from the edge of the bed, and it was Willy. I looked up, and he was there, not in a three-dimensional form, but in something that was actually far more profound. And he was talking to me telepathically, and he wanted help. He was scared. He was scared of leaving us, of me, his owner, and he just didn't know what to do. And so I talked him through it, and eventually he let go. And I saw his spirit fade away in this gray mass, and I just wailed with grief. And I continued to wail until I finally saw these orbs. It was a collective of green and purple orbs that suddenly appeared in front of where he was, and it moved over slowly to the other side of the room. And seamlessly, through telepathy and channeling and imagery, started receiving this extraordinary download of information from this enlightened space. And he began to explain to me this was all constructed. He said that he'd been seeking me out, and he came in the form of a dog because it was not able to fall in love or connect to another human being on that level. But I could with an animal. That I was supposed to take care of him for those 2.5 months just before he died so that I could get close enough to him so that when he died, I would fall emotionally and let me go through the grief that had been imprisoning me for so many lifetimes. It was a gift from love that he gave me for what I'd done for him. He showed me how I knew him, and he was a very powerful man, and apparently I was part of 8 people who protected him and his family thousands of years ago. And he went on to say that he knew I was struggling and understanding what this was all about. And he said, just know it is about love. And you can't understand that right now, but you will. And he went on to communicate with me seamlessly for 3 hours in the most authentic, loving space I've ever experienced. And then the next day I saw on Yahoo there was a gentleman who was a cop who was singing the national anthem, and so I started singing it, and I could sing, and I don't know how to sing. My voice teachers give up on me. And suddenly I can hit every note, and my whole left quadrant of my lung is open, and I've never felt before. Later that day, I visited Willy again for the last time. 4 days later, we put him to rest. Since then, he's spoken to me 7 times and continues to guide me in the most profound ways, from taking over my body and showing me how to heal myself, to showing me how I was punished publicly by having the love of my life hung instead of me. hundreds of years ago and how I was still holding that inside of my body. I would wail for 4 hours. He's progressively been freeing me. He's been opening up airways in my sinuses, my lungs. There's something that's really important about breath that I haven't figured out yet, but he said that I've suffered enough times and that it's okay and that I can feel love again, but not in the way that most people understand. And I trusted him, but I still did not get it. And then this happened. This is Amy. I met Amy at Esalen writing workshop that was randomly gifted to me, and I never saw it coming. But then again, one of the rules of energy is that you can't see it coming. It's like one of those jokes. When, how do you make God laugh? Tell him you got a plan. Exactly. I was in San Francisco for a month where she completely disarmed and stripped me of all my superficial things that I do to prove my worth with sex, humor, my skill sets, everything, forcing me to sit in a space where I felt like I had nothing until I finally figured out myself, how to love myself. It was the most extraordinary 4 weeks of my life that showed me the greatest fears, my greatest fears, and let me sit in it and see all that's there is fear. It was brutal, and it was what I found was love, and what I finally found was myself, and a black lab puppy named Penelope. I found here that there's 3 stories. There's the A story, which is about the mass media and about education is what we're told, and then there's the hiding story behind everything, the conspiracy theories, and then there's C story that's being covered up. It's about love. Because when you resonate with the frequency of love, there's no tension. And your body works like a tuning fork, like a cell phone tower, and you feel and resonate at a frequency that's unbelievable. And I finally started to understand this, that love wasn't what I thought it was. It was something so much greater. And the one thing that everything has in common is energy. And with all the work that I've done, I've discovered several consistencies with how energy works. And as those hold true, there's no accidents and there's nothing, and everything is perfect. And if I was to summarize it in the simplest form, I would say that the greatest thing is to lean into your fear. Because whatever scares you, that's the answer. You'll find your true self, and you'll discover what you really are. And it really is about love.